All right, welcome everybody to the Healing Place podcast. I am excited to have with me today Sarah Guilfoy, and she is here to talk about, she is a certified trauma-informed trainer, I have this written down, and founder of a nonprofit supporting agencies. So welcome, Sarah, yay!
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. So I will tell you a little bit about myself.
Wonderful.
So I am a certified trauma-informed care trainer. It is a passion of mine to go around and talk within the state of Oregon, that's where I live, to various agencies. Usually I'm called into places like schools or nonprofits, and I speak about trauma-informed care, about resilience, and about self-care as well. But I also am very, very excited and proud because last week was my official launch date of a nonprofit I've spent over 2 years working to launch. So,
Well, congratulations.
yeah, it's super exciting. It was I equate it to a very long birth process.
Yes. Right.
Pregnant for almost 2 years, and I have finally given birth. So we're in the baby phase still, and but it's wonderful. My nonprofit baby has been born, and I'm
very cool. Congrats. And so, what is the nonprofit? What is it that you do? I mean, does it have a name and all of that?
It does, yeah. So I'm really excited about it, and I can tell you a little bit more about it too, of course. But the program that I started is called Heart to Heart. And it is a nonprofit organization that supports all of Central Oregon for parents of children birth to 5. Partly because we know that most of brain development happens in children birth to 5. But I was thinking there's always so many resources out there for the families to help the children, but not necessarily the parents.
Yes.
And
yes, I worked in early Head Start and Head Start for a while.
Yeah.
And yes, and what a need there is for
huge
families, not right, like you said, not just the children, but for the families and the caregivers. Absolutely.
Right, the caregivers, yes. And what occurred to me was, really, why are we not spending more time supporting these parents? Because the trickle down effect is that it's going to affect the children. So really, it's a win-win in multiple ways. You're helping the parents, and then you're helping the children. In turn, you're helping society. I mean, it's why not do it? So I decided to launch this program, and so it's a parent support line. It's phone, text, and email. And it's just really, really exciting. And it's taken over our whole entire area. Just anybody can call, text, or email in and receive free emotional support.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah. I love it. That's just amazing. I love the name of it. My hobby, I guess, is I find hearts everywhere. And so my ebook that I told you about before we started recording is called Stop Thinking, Just Love. And it's filled with hundreds upon hundreds of hearts that either are pictures that I've found or that people have sent me. So as soon as you said the name, I was like, oh, awesome. I love it. Very cool. So are you working, how are you getting word out about this?
Oh, well, I am the founder and project manager, and I basically do every single possible thing there is to do for it. So it's advertising, but I also have been really lucky because I ended up finding a local community partner, and I partnered up with them. And so the fact that they've already been in the community for many years really helps me get the word out, because now we're partnered and they support me, and in turn I support them. It's just a really lovely symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
So they're called Healthy Beginnings in our area, and they actually do a lot of the health screenings for children birth to 5. And they thought this seemed like a natural addition to bring in. So
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because you have access to the parents at that point, or the caregivers.
Yep.
Yeah, really, really great. Well, I commend you, and I think it's wonderful. And I get the long pregnancy and nonprofit thing, because I have a project called Sammy's Bundles of Hope. I told you about our therapy dog. And so what we do is we had donations from individuals and agencies and companies, and we fill these bags with like coping, like stress balls and coloring books and journals and markers and everything. And we give them to kids who have had exposure to trauma. So like we drop them off at homeless shelters or safe houses. We've dropped a couple at schools for children who have had a death of a parent from, an overdose. So yeah. And so I'm still trying to wrap my head around starting a nonprofit. Like, how do you even do it? So I highly commend you.
Yeah, it is such a big project. I had no idea how challenging it would be, but when it's an act of love, it doesn't really matter. So my heart has 100% been in it this entire time. I completely love what I do, and it's been completely worth it.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it? I told someone on a podcast the other day, I have a 12-year-old, and she came into the room, and I was like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, I was just so exhausted. She said, why? I said, oh, I was up till 2:00 in the morning. And she said, why? And I said, I had to do some podcast editing, and I was finishing up the book, and I was working on the ebook, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh my God. And I said, oh my gosh, but it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
Because my heart's in it, and it's such a passion.
Yeah. It's different. Like, you can be tired, but it's not work.
Yes.
I completely get that, because I do the same thing. I'll get up or even just in the middle of the night, oh, I forgot to do this.
Right.
And I'm working at 3 a.m. all of a sudden, and then I'm really tired the next day, but I never regret it. And I never think, oh, I don't want to go into work today. I'm always excited about it, to the point where it's taking over my life just a little bit, but in a really, really good way. And I'm really passionate about it. So,
well, that's wonderful. And you have you're a teacher by.
Yeah. So my background was, so I have a degree in psychology, and then I have my teaching credential, and then I spent close to 8 years working in the school systems, both as an elementary school teacher and early childhood special education teacher. But then I realized that while I was doing that, for the most part, my interests seem to always lie in how can I increase a child's self-esteem? How can I get them motivated to come to school? It was always more behavioral and psychological, and then also, of course, how can I help the parents? And I always worked in these lower socioeconomic areas, and I really felt that it was fascinating to try to help them and, raise money and get clothes together for families that were homeless and things like that. Then after I had my son, he's now 5.5. After I had my son, I completely lost my passion for teaching, and I realized something had gone missing. And it was this kind of light bulb moment where I said, oh, it's because I'm really not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. I'm almost there, but I wasn't there. Right. And then my son was not an easy birth, and he was not an easy baby at all. He didn't sleep for more than 4 hours until he was 11 months old.
Oh my goodness.
So I had no sleep for 11 months. It was horrendous. So, and I feel like I'm still trying to catch up from that. Right. Years later, I'll probably be a grandparent. I'll still be tired. Right. But and then we just, parenting, you never get a break, right? So it was like, it wasn't like there was the baby phase and then I had a vacation and then I was like, oh, and then now I have a 2-year-old. We just, you just keep going and keep going. And we launched right into 2-year-oldness, and he wasn't a baby. Then he was a tantrumy toddler. And he's a very emotional, very energetic little boy, and very loving and wonderful. But there were challenges for me that just exhausted me. And I also didn't have a family support around me. And so this combination of, oh, I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing, and I'm really feeling a lack of support in the world, kind of melded together to make this actually wonderful thing happen for me, where I realized I needed to shift my path in life. And now that's where I'm at.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I love that story. I'm sorry you went through that in, the struggle, but I love when we can take a hardship, a difficulty, and then like turn it around and help benefit others because of what you learned along that lesson. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something that is really important to me. And I think it lies at the core of Heart to Heart. It's that parents can feel supported,
right?
Knowing that they have a place to reach out and just feel heard, feel listened to, receive some empathy, maybe some advice, but really just have that network around them and know that what they're going through, that's okay. Feel really validated. And I think that's something that's really lacking in our society overall, is that when we have emotions, particularly if they're anything negative, that there's this stigma like, ooh, it's icky, let's kind of stay away from this. But I really try to welcome that in people, that if we're talking about that, we're able to grow. And then that's when you do have those aha moments and you have those shifts in your life and those learning moments.
Right. And I've told people that too before, is that, as a society, we can laugh out loud, we LOL at everything. And we're very embracing of the positive, or what is labeled as positive emotions. But if someone's crying or someone's angry or if someone's struggling, then it's like, oh, okay, we don't want to see that. So, but to have those and to teach people how to have those emotions and have them in a healthy way, express them in a healthy way and feel them in a healthy way. Yeah, I get it. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So one of my questions that I ask is, if you could reach as many people in the world with your message, who would it be? Who is your target audience?
Oh, I mean, I love that question, because for me right now, when I think about the program I'm doing, my target audience is more families, but I like the fantasy portion of that question. So really, if I could reach anybody, it would be anyone who's gone through trauma. So the world, I'd reach.
Yes. I'm right there with you.
Is that okay?
I don't know anyone who's ever been hurt, world. Which is everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little idealistic.
Right. No, I think it's wonderful. I live in that. I'm a Pisces, so I live in my little dream world. So I love having those lofty goals. So yeah.
I love that. It's what's that quote? It's if you reach for the stars, it's a what is that? It's okay to reach for the stars, but maybe you land on the moon or something. Yeah, and it's like, I really like that, because it's like, overreach, and you'll still land somewhere great. Our goals don't always have to be these super logical ones, like super attainable.
Absolutely. So do you have history yourself with trauma, or how were you pulled, just your exposure through working with children who were struggling?
Oh yeah, no, actually, I do have history with it, and I think that tends to be the case from what I'm learning with people who've gone into the helping professions like this. And I am a child of, for the most part, I was a child of the 80s. So that was, raised in the Midwest. So that was really kind of a little bit backwards. So the 80s there is more like the 70s, really.
Yes,
So
I know. I'm in Ohio, so I
yeah.
get
Well, just a smidge behind. So I feel like when I was there, even though there was excellent trauma research that was coming out really starting in the 80s for the most part, I don't know who, if anybody, received it around me. And it wasn't until I was a full adult that I started to feel any support. So when I was a child, I am a survivor of childhood domestic violence, like in my family, against myself and my mother. Lots of violence and also psychological manipulation, that kind of thing. And then depression in my family, neglect. I mean, my ACEs score is an 8-9, so kind of high.
Yeah.
But I really, at an early on, I decided that I didn't want that to stop me. Like I took it as a sign that I needed to change the trajectory of my life. We also lived in a lot of poverty. It's kind of the classic, poverty, domestic violence, parents didn't finish college, da 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 da. Like you hear, or at least I've heard as a teacher. So, so I put myself through college. I decided to major in psychology, decided that I wanted to work on myself, but also learn like what is going on in the world and why are people the way they are. And I found it really fascinating. And I've done a lot of growth with it and realized that there's peace to be found in knowing that it's kind of sad to say this, but there's peace to be found in knowing that so much of the world has actually experienced trauma and sadness, because it's a connecting.
It's connection. Yes.
Yeah, it's a connecting piece for us. And again, if we can open up that communication, there's more learning to be had. And I think what happens is really that when we shut off and we're told we can't talk about it, or we feel we can't talk about it, that's when most of these issues happen. So I know I was raised being told I couldn't talk about what was happening. And I still get a little bit stuck about it. I mean, it was a process for 15 years, and that's
I mean, you're sitting here talking and I'm like, I'm trying not to go, because I grew up in a poverty household, a dad that struggled holding a job but was violent my first 10 years of my life, hitting me and my sister, not my mother, and alcoholic parents. I remember flipping on the light in the kitchen and the cockroaches would scurry. And so, yes, there was that going on. And I ended up putting myself through college with a degree in psychology.
Oh.
So that's why I was like, wow.
Oh, nice to meet you, twin. Yes.
I know, right. And the same sort of thing, like I was fascinated by just the way, people's minds work. And, I still hadn't come to terms with all that had gone on with me with sexual abuse and other things. But the trauma, it was just kind of building. And then panic attacks arose, and then that was when I started to reach out and find hope and healing. So but I think what you said about, finding peace in that connection, knowing you're not alone, And that's where the healing, starts to happen. So yeah. Well, and one, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, but two, I again commend you for taking it and shining your light. So just beautiful.
Thank you. And I really am making it, it's like my spiritual life's mission, for my own personal happiness, my own personal spiritual growth, to go out there and kind of spread that word that just because we've gone through something doesn't mean that we have to lose hope. It doesn't mean that we have to give up, that our life is ruined. You can change. You can actually take charge of your life.
Yes.
To a large extent. And so many of us feel just like there's just this pattern you're supposed to go in your life, and you go along with it and you don't really question it. And then why am I unhappy? And it's okay to turn inward and ask yourself these challenging questions, so that way you can actually be peaceful and be happy. And it takes a lot of work. I have family who have not done any of this work, and we are completely different people. And I hope the best for them, but it's something that, along with the idea that I want people to have a feeling of hope, I also really want them to realize that work does come with it, and it's not an easy road. I like to think of it, I'm a long distance runner, and I like to think of it in that way. I ran a marathon, and it reminds me of a marathon. It's awful. Like you get excited. You're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to be so healthy. A lot like signing, maybe going to therapy. Right. And then you're doing the race and you're at mile 20, which I don't know if you've ever run any distance, but anybody who's run distance, they get this. Like that is a horrible mile. Right around there. It's just your legs feel like they're going to fall off your body, and you don't want to move anymore. You're just like, why am I doing this?
I walked a half a marathon, and I walked it, so I can't even imagine. My gosh, by the time we hit, mile 12, I was like, I'm dying.
Right. Well, yeah, you can make it relative. Yeah. Yeah, it becomes really awful, and you have to dig so deep mentally to get yourself to complete it. But then once you've done the work and it's over, you think, I can't wait to do that again. I learned so much. Yes. And I think that's what this is a lot like. It's like you really have to do the work, but then it's so worth it. You almost are like, how did I never do this before? So
right. Are there any myths or facts that you would like to clarify for listeners?
Oh, gosh. I'll put it like this. One thing that is really important to me that I think we don't pay enough attention to is children out in the world, maybe at the school systems. I think that a lot of times we think a myth would be perhaps that we think, that parent looks angry and that child looks unhappy, but it's not my place to become involved. And I had to endure some horrific childhood violence because no one ever, not one person ever said anything. And I know that people knew because I grew up in a small town. I went to school with a black eye. There were signs. It wasn't secret. And I feel that happens way, way, way too often that we think, it's not my place. The parent might get mad at me. And that's something that I think that's a myth that we need to get past in our society, that no, you need to get involved.
I know it's mandatory for teachers and mandatory for certain, and maybe that's not nationwide. I know in Ohio it is.
No, it is. It's mandatory, but I think, and this is partly why I'm involved in trauma-informed care training, because there are certain things that I recognize that maybe not everybody recognizes.
Right.
A lot of people look for big signs like bruises up and down a body or something, but they're not always like that.
Right.
And so I would like our society to feel that we're mandatory reporters. I would like our society to be able to recognize these signs and symptoms of violence, of abuse, of any variety, and not just expect certain
other people to take care of it. Right.
Yeah, other people to take care of it, or certain stereotypes of, oh, this is what sexual abuse looks like, and this is what domestic violence looks like.
Yes.
Because it's not always cookie cutter.
Right. Well, and in society, and how often that happens that, well, I'm not going to call the police on that because somebody else probably already did.
Right.
Or I'm not, right, I don't want to get involved kind of deal. Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Are there any particular resources that you used along your healing journey? Anything that really stands out as, being powerful and helping you? I know you and I connected through ACEs Connection, which is like a newer source for me anyway of just a wonderful resource. So yeah.
Yeah. I did a lot of therapy, and I actually opened up my mind to EMDR. And yeah, it's, I thought it sounded, I'll be honest, I thought it sounded kind of cheesy.
Right.
And it's like
make my eyes go back.
Moving my eyes. What? But it's been fantastic.
Oh,
so
life altering.
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable. It's not my favorite thing to do in the world, but it's very, very healing.
Yes.
And then I read a lot of books, and I listen to a lot of podcasts that provide hope. And then I also am a really huge supporter of self-care. Huge. I mean, I run a nonprofit, I'm a speaker, and I have a child. So I'm a little busy, but I still make time for self-care. And I tell people that because there are so many people who are like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm like, no, if I can do it, you can do it. And I make time to get in my exercise because I love that release of endorphins. So that, I think that's really huge,
I could not agree more. And gosh, yes, you are my twin. Holy cow. I mean, I tell people, yes, I make sure I put it in my calendar. One, because, I have menopause brain. So if I don't write it down, I won't remember. But, to put in, I meditate daily, and I do journaling, and I exercise 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes a day, either a walk in nature or get on my bike, whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. It is part of my to-do list. Along with podcast and book and job and all that other stuff. Yeah. And I think really people have to make it a part of their daily routine to take care of themselves.
Yes, daily. And knowing what it is that's taking care of yourself. When I do my talks about trauma-informed care, and I always add in my self-care piece, I find it really interesting that there's a portion of people, and I'm one of them, that actually finds cleaning cathartic. And
we're not twins. You can come to my house.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's so funny because you have to really cue into what's self-care for you.
Yes.
So for me, like the other day I was, I am also going through a divorce. So,
Right.
Talk about life changes and things, but we're making everything work and things, but it's hard. Divorce is really challenging. It's not my favorite thing ever. And there's days when I feel okay, and then there's days when I'm like, oh no, what happened? I mean, and I think that's just normal.
Right.
So I had a moment. I checked in with my mother. Oh, that's self-care. If you have a mother that's supportive. So I love her so much. And I checked in with her, and Mom, I'm having a moment. I'm feeling weepy. She's like, well, what are you going to do for your self-care? I said, well, I'm going to clean my apartment. Then I'm going to make some tea, and I'm going to cry and eat ice cream. And she's like,
plan.
yeah, she's like, that sounds fantastic.
Right.
Yes, I think, it does. And it helped.
Yeah.
So I knew my things,
Yeah, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad I said cleaning's not for me, because it is. You kind of have to find your own thing.
Yeah.
I was doing yoga for a while, but I swear I saw a meme that was like an elephant, it looked like it was trying to do a yoga pose. And that's how I felt. Like I was like always on my face. Like I have no arm strength. So I'd be like, my arms would be shaking and I'd be like, I can't do it. So yeah, I might get back to try to do it again, because it is, I did like it when I did it, other than, the whole body poses stuff.
That is kind of important. Yeah.
That's kind of the point of yoga. So if I could just do the last part, where you those last
Savasana.
Yes, that's it. Yes. Then that would be great. I'd be a big fan. All right. I'm trying to think. Oh, my favorite question.
Okay.
If you could meet anyone, dead or alive, who could help you with your journey, with your mission, your passion, who would it be?
I have the hardest time with this stuff because I want to pick like 100 people.
Right.
I'm like, well, okay. But I would say off the top of my head, the way where I am in my life right now, I would love to have maybe a week away with Brene Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Gifts of Imperfection. What a great book. Yeah.
She's awesome. I can't even finish her books because I read like 5 pages, and then it takes me like a month to just kind of sit with them and go, oh, wow. That's so great. It's so juicy. So I have all of her books and not one is finished.
Yes, because you like journal about it and think about it.
I really absorb it. Yeah, so I would love to just have a big chunk of time with her and let her just, hang out with me and tell me all of her thoughts. And I'd learn from her, and it would be magical, because everything she does is magical in my opinion. So
I love it. That's fantastic. What a great answer. I think it's awesome. Last question. What is your dream job, and are you doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
I am doing it. Although I'll bring it back to the beginning. I would love to make my dream job cover the entire world. So then I would be really happy. I feel like a child sometimes, the way I'm such a dreamer. I would like to take this and make all of the people in all of the world trauma informed and learn about themselves and find hope. That's not too much to ask, right?
You and I need to go hit the road together and just do like a tour of the world.
Yeah, tour of the world.
And stand on stage and share our stories of hope, because that's like my dream too.
Yeah.
And just like, and the whole Sammy's Bundles of Hope, thing. And just like, I have visions of like every child who's ever been hurt or in pain or experienced trauma, like just handing them one of those bags and just being like, here, I know this doesn't fix it, but maybe this will help a little bit. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. So anything else that you want to, clarify for listeners, ways that they can maybe get a hold of you, or do you have a website, Facebook, Instagram, any of that?
Oh, yes. So I am learning to become more present on social media. That's not quite my thing. I do have some Facebook for Heart to Heart, and I am a trauma-informed care trainer, so I have an email with that. And Heart to Heart is for an email. That's kind of the best way to reach me. And so it's HEART, just a normal spelling of heart, with the number 2, heart, at hdesd.org. Okay. And Heart to Heart Parent Support Line is our Facebook, and I do plan on getting an Instagram on there one of these days.
Right. I get it, because like the podcast has its own Instagram, and Sammy, our Labradoodle therapy dog, she has her own Instagram, and they have their own Facebook pages, and trying to wrap my head around it all. Finally, I was just like, I think Instagram's going to go like to once a week, kind of. It's just not my thing. I'm definitely not a Twitter person because I don't get it at all. Like, I don't get it. So I'm a Facebooker, and LinkedIn for the professional part of it. So
yeah. I'm kind of old fashioned, I think. I even go around with flyers or cards.
Yeah.
I should practically get out a beeper.
I think you made me snort laugh. That was great. Oh, well, awesome. Well, this has been an absolute joy, and I've loved our conversation. And thank you again for all that you do.
And you. Thanks. It was so lovely talking with you. I'm very excited to learn more about your program and listen to many, many podcasts of yours. And you are a shining light yourself.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm going to do a little closeout. Everyone, thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful to have you here with us. And until next time, remember to be gentle with yourselves.